This is specifically targeting Muslims. And how do we know this? Well, we know it because Rudy Giuliani told us how this was developed and how he whitewashed it. And we also know it because last week, Donald Trump made it clear on the Brody file with CBN's Brody, David Brody.
CBN's Brody.
You know Brody.
Christian
Brody. Donald Trump sat down with him in the Oval Office for a one-on-one with David Brody, and made it absolutely clear that when they pass this thing, somebody's going to get priority. Now,
Brody.
I imagine that in these 7 countries, there's probably a mix of religions, right? There's Islam. That's the vast majority of them.
That's correct.
There would be Christian. And I bet maybe in amongst those 7, there's a Jew or 2.
There's a Jew or 2.
And maybe a Hindu.
And no.
Maybe A.
I guess.
Maybe.
There could be anything.
And maybe a
Beaky
couple of mannequins.
So there's more Zoroastrians than either of those two in these places.
But basically we're talking about Christians and Muslims that would come from these countries. Vast majority, of course, Muslims and Christians. Why do I say that? Because one of the ways you can also make sure that your ban is targeted towards Muslims is to give preference to someone who's not Muslim coming from that country.
Persecuted Christians, we've talked about this overseas. Right. The refugee program that, or the refugee changes you're looking to make, as it relates to persecuted Christians, do you see them as kind of a priority here?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, they've been horribly treated. Do you know, if you were a Christian in Syria, it was impossible, at least very, very tough to get into the United States. If you were a Muslim, you could come in. But if you were a Christian, it was almost impossible. And the reason that was so unfair is that everybody was persecuted, in all fairness, but they were chopping off the heads of everybody, but more so the Christians. And I thought it was very, very unfair. So we are going to help them.
Now, the reality of this is that in 2016, Muslims made up nearly half of refugee admissions at 46%. Christians made up 44% of the refugees admitted.
Almost impossible.
Now, I know that sounds impossible. And this is coming from largely Muslim countries. So he's lying. And they've made it absolutely clear that they're going to give preference to Christians coming from these countries. So when you're giving preference to Christians coming from 7 Muslim countries, you are clearly making a decision on who gets into this country based upon religion. And we have a constitution that says our government cannot engage in that type of picking winners and losers based upon religion. I mean, that's what I'm trying to frame it.
I like how you found the one time that phrase is actually operative in something other than making a completely fucking moronic statement.